Okay, welcome to everyone who's possibly just jumped in the last couple of minutes. Tonight I'm going to be dealing with Project 2 and all of the questions involved in that. Something I've been asked now is when will we get Project 1 marks? They are due back on the 23rd, so hopefully the next day, that is when the marks should be released to you. Okay. Remember, there's obviously absolutely nothing stopping you from going forward with Project 2 because your titles and things have all been approved beforehand, right? And yeah, that is what you're basing your Project 2 on largely because it's a literature review in theory. All right, let me just quickly look at these questions in the chats and answer like the kind of general ones, and then we'll get into it. Okay, come the final summative, when you bring everything together, we'll be able to amend everything according to the feedback of all the projects we have done. Yes, absolutely. So that's really the purpose of all of these little hand-ins, is that it's a point of feedback for you. So when it now comes to, and you can obviously do the work on them with the feedback as time progresses throughout the module. But when it comes to that final summative, it really is truly a summative, because it is going to be the summation of all of the projects together, plus a teeny weeny little new bit. And yeah, so you absolutely will work on them according to the feedback. Obviously, you see, I will give you feedback when you get Project 1 back, so then you will be able to work on that before you then include it for the next time it will be included for marks will be in the final summative. Okay, so yeah, addressing another good question as well is, do we hand in Project 1 and 2 at the same time? Do we separate them? All of this. So logistically, it is obviously much easier for you guys to just kind of have one running document that you keep submitting, which will be very useful, particularly for us when it comes to grading. I think everyone's pretty much recommending this with their groups. But yeah, please do hand them both in and just very clearly indicate, Project 1 and then the headings involved with that. And then for Project 2, just add in after that Project 2 and then etc. And then, yeah, when it comes to the final summative, and we're going to have many discussions before then, but then you'll take out those like Project 1 and 2 and 3 headings, and then it will become a research proposal. So yeah, to sum up that story, you please do hand in both projects, and then for the third one you'll do all three, but obviously just indicate the word count for the current project that is being submitted. And yeah, so I won't obviously be marking everyone every time. The next time we'll mark the previous ones will be in the final submission. Okay. But yeah, you're obviously able to go and just make changes and things in the meanwhile. That's completely up to you. Should we name it Project 1 and 2? Okay, so I mean, whatever you name it is up to you. I would just name it whatever the active project is at the time. I think to avoid confusion, especially with the submissions on the system and things. So like Project 2, just name it Project 2. Yeah. Yeah, I think I addressed that one now. So yes, please. So in your document, like start each project bit on a new page for now, just to make it easier. Obviously, when we go over it and mark it, and then yeah, put a heading Project 2. Okay, so yeah, you can amend accordingly as we go along and then submit the changes with Project 2. But, for obvious time constraints and things, like I won't be able to go and give feedback on Project 1 again for Project 2. Do you know what I'm saying? But yeah, should you be working on it in the meanwhile, you can do that. Okay. Only Learning Unit 2 is visible on Learn. That's a problem. Does anyone else have this issue? Interesting. Shouldn't be that way. Those of you that this is a problem, it's definitely some kind of error somewhere in the back end of the system. So please do log a ticket. I will send an email through to Jess tomorrow to follow up because yeah, that's very strange. Sorry, I'm just writing a sticky note to myself. Okay. Okay, so yeah, I mean, we thought that this whole group situation was going to be sorted out already by this stage. So interesting. But yeah, so basically, those of you who are here because you've obviously got the link and you're supposed to be in my group, and then I hope you've all submitted, like I said, on a ticket and submitted project one because it will come to me. And yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna actually still follow up with this whole situation, and hopefully it is fixed soon, or we come up with some kind of better plan. But yeah, Anita, I'm actually with Ravasha for REPR. Oh, okay. So if you have access to her now and you have her link, then yeah, you need to be going to her collabs. Because obviously she'll be giving, her instructions and things. So anyone who isn't actually supposed to be here, please do go to the session whose collab the class you're actually in. Yeah. Okay. So a bunch of learning unit problems. All right, just do all log tickets, and actually do me a favor if you've logged a ticket and you have a ticket number. Will you guys just pop me an email with that? Because it's actually easier if I can provide evidence that tickets have been logged and be like, hey, can you guys follow up on this? So just as an aside, they said lecture will make others available. Well, no. Okay, I mean some lecturers do that, but I didn't, and so they should have all been visible the whole time. So yeah, I will have to go and figure that out. Okay. Okay, no problem, Anita. Okay, what do we need to do in fixing the unable to help? Okay, so I will communicate tomorrow, because I will chat to EdTech and get an answer, and then I'll send out an announcement. Okay. Is Paula's research group meant to be in this collaboration? No, you should be with Paula. If you have her link, I don't have her link, but if someone else has her link, you can share it here, unless you have it. Yeah, because I think some of you are also in like both groups, so we've had to do quite a lot of like sorting on our end at the back to make sure we like all didn't mark the same project 3 times, kind of thing. So yeah, I know it has been a nightmare, and it has been for us as well. So I am sorry about that, and yeah, we are trying to figure it out. Okay. Alrighty. Fun, yes, so much fun. Okay, cool. 2 important things to follow up on for me tomorrow. Well, I'll send the email after this thing, but yeah, okay. Alrighty. Okay, yeah, Cameron, if you don't find the link for Paula's group thing to hop in now, just stick around because Project 2 is Project 2, and I'm explaining the, instructions for that. So it will still be valuable for you. Okay. Alrighty, so Project 1 is now done, which is delightful. I'm going through them, and that was the introduction section to a research proposal. So what is next is Project 2, which is the literature review section of a proposal. And so we're in that row there, Project 2, where the star is blinking. Okay, I don't know if you can see my cursor. Yeah, there. All right, and so due on the 29th of August, and word count is 1,100 to 1,400 words. So please do stick within that word count. If you go 10% over 1,400, it's fine, but literally one word over the 10% extra, and that, I'll just stop reading at that point. Okay? We just have to all be on the same page with that so that it's fair. But yeah, please do try and stick within that word count. It's going to be very important when it comes to the summative, because that word count will be very strict. Okay. Yeah, 12 words, it's fine. We can handle 12 words over. Okay. Yes, this word count is tricky because you are now condensing. I think the word count was a little bit higher when it came to this in INRS. But yeah, so this is basically the second half of what that first assignment in INRS was. Okay, we've got the theoretical approach and the review of literature, and then a small thing at the end is the conceptualization. Okay, so I'm going to go through each of these things and the requirements for them. And yeah, hopefully we are all together on that same page. All right. Okay, project 2. So first up, we have, this is just a summary. So again, this is just from the module outline. The 3 things you have to do is, okay, so you please do include, we've made an instruction this year that to please, keep project 1 in so that we then have access to the title and questions and things. And so it will make sense for us, obviously, especially like if there's something very wonky with your questions and you get feedback on that, then please work on that and try and improve it just to make sense for the next project, okay? And then you need to do these 3 things. So you explain your theoretical approach, you do a brief literature review, and then a conceptualization. Right. So firstly, theoretical approach. Okay, so we did, go over the significance of this in INRS, but again, as a summary, the theoretical approach is really more important a lot of the time than we kind of talk about it is, because at the end of the day, when you actually do research and you go and do your analysis method, whatever it may be, the theoretical framework that you've chosen is inherently embedded into that analysis. It's like a pair of glasses that you're putting on, and that's the lens that you're looking at your data through. And you have to very explicitly explain your data and your conclusions that you've made, from the perspective of that theory, because that's the point. We're producing knowledge that's obviously, guided in a particular way. And so that is what the theoretical approach is for, okay? It's for you to situate your study in a theoretical framework that makes sense to your topic. Okay. So obviously, like if your topic has something to do with personality, for instance, you're doing a psych topic, then you're going to be looking at a personality theory, perhaps, to guide you on your endeavor. Okay. So the most important thing to note here is to please use an actual theory. I know that sounds silly to say it like that, but like what I mean is like an actual published theory, by actual theorists that like you've learned about, like a mainstream theory. It's quite easy sometimes to mix up concepts and theories. So for instance, Erik Erikson's theory of psychosocial development, that's a theory. It's a whole stage theory. It's a whole developed thing that explains a whole developmental process. But if you find yourself wanting to use something that's like extremely detailed and very minute, then it's probably not a theory. It's probably more of a concept. But you could solve the confusion around that for yourself with a Google Scholar search for that theory. Okay. My suggestion is to use a theory that you already know about. It's kind of double work for you if you have to now go and learn a theory and then be able to write about it convincingly in your own words. So use a theory you've already come across and everything will be fine. Please just choose one theory for this. Okay, don't try and overcomplicate your life by combining 2. Just hit it with 1 and make sure that you explain that accurately. Okay. All right, so what we're looking for here again is alignment. So this is why it's kind of important for us to see your titles and questions when it comes to this project, because obviously your theory needs to make sense in terms of your title. Like if you're doing a project on, I don't know, like alcoholism in the Cape Flats, and then you go and try and apply like a weird neuropsychological theory or something to it, that's not in scope, it wouldn't make sense, right? So this is the stage where we're checking that theory makes sense and can be applied to your topic. Generally, you'll know if you're on the right track if the literature you're reading has those elements of that theory that you've chosen, okay? And it's also a way to guide you when you're looking for literature, is to look for that particular theory, right? Literature that is from that perspective or similar perspectives. Okay, so very importantly here, you need multiple credible sources to explain your theory. Okay, it can't just come from a textbook, for instance. You must also use at least two other credible academic sources. And by that, I mean journal articles, okay, to explain your theory. There's always confusion around this, and it's similar to literature review, you know, how old is too old of a source. I'm saying please stay within 10 years, so 2014 and up, if as much as you can. Yeah, so the exception is if you read and you cite a seminal source. So that would be like citing an original paper of, I don't know, Erickson or someone, which is fairly unlikely at your level to you know be able to find and have access to those readings online unless someone's already given them to you. So what I'm really trying to avoid here is using as an in-text citation an old seminal source that you haven't actually read and it's unlikely for you to have accessed. Okay, it's dodgy to do that on many levels. I mean, technically in some cases it can be academic fraud because technically you're citing a source you haven't actually seen or had access to. But I mean, that's hectic. More the problem is that it's very easy to mix up the point and miss the point of the content. If you're doing that, you're filtering through other sources, but then trying to cite the original one. Okay. So that's that. Just use modern sources to explain your theoretical approach. Yeah, that's that. Okay. All right. So you construct this little section is define your theory, and you know that comes obviously straight from the literature, and you then explain this theory and its key concepts. So you know, what is it addressing? If there are stages involved, if it's a development thing, what are they? That kind of thing. Okay, so really highlighting just those key concepts of the theory, and then you need to provide a justification of why this theory is, you know, suits your topic or why this theory is appropriate for your topic. Okay, so you're doing an introduction of the theory, the justification of the application of the theory to your topic. Cool. So basically, and why I've put the little snippets of the rubric here is because it's the easiest way to explain this. So what very often happens is people kind of panic when the word theory comes about and then just like vomit out a textbook kind of, you know, explanation of a theory, but it's lacking in, you know, an actual application to your topic or a justification in the form of an argument of, you know, why it's applicable for the theory. And then obviously, you know, that would put you in danger of these two blocks here. So just do make sure that you are applying it to your topic very specifically and very directly in your language, right? You know, like let's say now you've explained attachment theory and you say attachment theory is appropriate for this study's topic because, and literally, then you just give the reason. Okay. So yeah, I just again, and I say it quite a lot, but a writing tip for this kind of thing, particularly in research, is to be very direct in your language. Okay. You know, leave vague and wishy-washy and flowery behind. Directness is absolutely the goal when it comes to research writing. Okay, do we have any questions with the theory? It's for 10 out of 35 marks. So I know I'm going to get hit with the word count question. So if you're thinking of a 1400 word limit, basically I would split that in half and then minus a little bit for the conceptualization. And then that's how you're going to kind of separate this out. But I'd say 600 words, more or less. Aim for around 600, and that should be sufficient for your theory. 500 to 600 words, put it that way. Okay, Tashrika's got a question. If there are subtopics in the theory, do you mention those too? Yes, so if there's important like little branches off of the theory, that would be important to mention as well. Okay, justification. The justification. Interesting. Yeah. So, like, I mean, the actual sentence where you say this is applicable to this research study doesn't necessarily need to be referenced unless you're stating a fact of its applicability that you got from literature, in which case you would reference it. And your justification does need to be backed up by literature. So, yes, basically, it must be referenced. I mean, the easiest way to do this is to find an article that is more or less on your topic or in a similar context and your topic that uses the same theoretical structure, and then you can use that as a justification as well. Yeah, the relevance of the theory to the topic, the research problem that you wish to now research, hypothetically. And that's why it comes first. Sometimes in research proposals, theory comes after the literature review, and this is honestly still a weirdly hotly debated topic amongst researchers. But it really makes a lot of sense to put it before the literature review, because in that way it kind of actually guides you along your literature review. Yeah, it helps that scope. Okay, so that's a great question, and thank you for bringing that up. So yeah, if we scored high in theory and INRS, can we use the same one and just edit it to increase our marks? Okay, so this is kind of like a double-sided answer, really, because yes, you can reuse your work from INRS and then improve on it for this hand-in. But also, I just want to like say, try to ditch the reasoning of I did well in INRS, so I'm going to do well here. Because you'll see this rubric is more involved. There's a little bit of a slightly different focus. The purpose of these sections now is less just to demonstrate that you know what they are, which is what it was in INRS. And now it's to form part of a research proposal. So there is more of that element of a golden thread that needs to be running through. Yeah, so obviously if you did well in INRS, it means you do have a good foundation, and the theory made sense and you nailed the foundations of it, which is excellent. So yes, do take that as a foundation. And then just, yeah, work. Okay, I'm back. Sorry, where did you guys lose me? I don't know what happened. My Wi-Fi just had a moment. Can you hear me now? Okay, great. Where did I exit in my speech? I think I just finished explaining that a good mark in INRS is a good thing as a foundation, but because REPR shifts focus slightly in terms of what you need to do in this module, then yeah, it just means you need to make sure that you are shifting your work as well to fulfill that purpose. Okay, cool. Does the age of our source only have to be current for this section, for the whole project? For the whole project, okay. yeah, it's like a blanket rule to keep your sources within the last 10 years if possible. Obviously, if the article's from 2012 but it's like a really foundational thing, and like particularly if it's even from the theorist that you're using, then fine, for one. But then do use newer for the rest of the sources. Okay. Okay, well, what do you mean by older though? Because it is generally a blanket rule for all submissions to use recent resources. Okay. But it's not. I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's in the rubric for project one. It should be fine as long as it's not from like before 2000. I think that would be too old for this kind of thing. Okay. But yeah, going from project two onwards, do try and stick within this decade. Okay. Righty, literature review. Okay. I know everyone hates literature reviewing, or most people do, but here we are again. It is seriously a fundamental skill, and not just for research, right? So I know a lot of you are like, oh, it's fine, I'm not going to do research after this. And I get it, I really do. But this skill, this learning to write and synthesize and evaluate things, is a fundamental life skill that you will use in the working world as well, right? Most of the time. So yeah, it's a lot of work, but also remember, the more that you practice this kind of style of analyzing and writing, the more naturally it will come to you every time you do it. So yeah, hopefully that will happen this time around. What I'm going to do is I will post the recording that I've done, because I've like done this lesson on literature review so many times in different like modules. So I'm going to find the best one and I'm going to upload it again. So just to give you guys like a refresher on, what is literature review, how do we do it, what not to do, that kind of thing. So look out for that, okay? And then, you do have all of the extra resources that are around. Yeah. Okay, so but yeah, just like, top tier things that you absolutely have to be doing in this literature review is the structure. So it must follow that funnel structure. So you start from broad and end up narrow. And then it must be organized thematically. So, in your whole analysis of your literature, in reading everything, you've found certain themes or patterns or ideas that are common across multiple sources. And then that is how you structure it. So you will have subheadings that will be the titles of the themes that you found while reading. Okay. Immediately by doing those two things, you're at least on the path of writing a literature review, right? And not just a summary of things. So, and then the last really important thing to do is to achieve that level of critical synthesis and integration, where you're comparing sources and arguments and evaluating them as well. And it's not just their conclusions. Remember, it's also bringing in methodologies, theories, things like that are relevant. Okay. What helps in a literature review is to have like 5-ish sources that are your main source of information, your main sources of information, like like the main dishes of a meal, and then you have other side dishes that accompany your main source of information, and you use that in that evaluation process. So that helps. Okay. Kirsten, that is the best point I've ever seen when it comes to literature reviews. Thank you. I'm actually just going to read that comment out for the recording. Literature review is important in everyday life so that you don't get swept up in fake news and end up doing stupid stuff. Checking sources, learning to understand the contents, etc. Well done. Couldn't have said it better myself. It is just an important life skill. And honestly, it's one of those things it is like riding a bike. It's once you nail how to do it, you will be able to do it more easily in the future. Okay, questions about the literature review. It's also 15 marks out of the 35, but you know, CAP is traditionally slightly longer than the theory section. So you distribute the words however however that works for you in terms of that. But if you've made your theory section about 600, then your lit review can be, I'm trying to math in my head and it's not working. Then your lit review can be like 700-ish, right? Because the contextualization, yeah, 800, but remember you have the contextualization section, which doesn't take up a huge amount of words, but you need to still leave words for that bit at the end. Okay. I feel like it's going to be more like the theory is going to be around 500, and then you're going to use 700 to 800 in the lit review and have like 100-ish left for the conceptualization. I know you will end up cutting, and in that process, you will really refine the themes that are the most relevant and ideas, to your topic. You'll find a narrowing process takes place in that cutting down. Yeah, so I know it's very frustrating. It really is, but yeah. Okay, we're going to do contextualization in a second. Yeah, so think about it less as cutting out and more of condensing. So now that you've done that initial, work on those words in INRS, you're taking it and you're almost analyzing your own work and taking the most important things out of it, and then constructing this new lit review from that. Okay. Yes. Okay, everyone happy to move to conceptualization? Okay, cool. So conceptualization now is a little section at the, I mean, I say little, but don't like underestimate this section, okay? It's still vital, especially when you are putting your whole research proposal together at the end. It will make sense why you do this. So 10 marks, which is actually a glorious amount of marks for this thing that you have to do that's relatively easy. Okay, so you need to, first of all, identify the key concepts or constructs or just like variables if you're doing quantitative research, especially in your research. And I know I'm sounding vague with this, but it literally completely depends on your topic as to what they are, okay? But they generally relate, let's say if there's something very specific with your population, like that you need to define in order for it to make sense in your research. Like you need to explain the context basically of what you mean by that. So let's say you're doing some research on healthcare workers, and you're focusing on, I don't know, like different levels of nurses and maybe doctors in a hospital or something. But technically, healthcare workers also includes a bunch of other people, right? So you need to make sure in your conceptualization then that you're defining exactly who you mean by that. Yeah, and what that means. Okay, so that's just an option. That's just an example of how your population can sometimes come into conceptualization. But yeah, otherwise it's generally the main concept. So if there's something conceptually important with your theory, you will explain that. Like if you're doing something to do with development and you are talking about, I don't know, attachment, then you'd need to really give a little definition of what that is at this stage. Obviously, that kind of, you expand on it in your theory section, but it's basically, it's almost a little index that's put in a little list of definitions of things, but in terms of your research and referenced as well. And that's what this is. Okay. So this is the one and only time you'll be allowed to use bullet points in your research proposal. So if you wish to do that, go ahead and be merry. But if you don't want to use like actual bullet points, it's fine. Just you can put a little heading of whatever the construct is, and then the key thing here is this idea of conceptualization or operationalization for quantitative research. But basically, you need to provide a definition for the concept that also explains how it is used in your research. Okay, so basically it means that any random academic or average Joe in the world could pick up your research proposal and maybe have a different understanding of what one of your concepts mean, but then reads your conceptualization section and then therefore doesn't get confused later on, right? It's you stipulating your boundaries for what things mean in your research. Okay, so it's not going to be the longest list ever. You'll probably have four-ish, 4 or 5. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, to get that kind of 8 to 10 marks, so they have to be referenced and it has to be a credible source. Okay, you'll see, and this rubric is a bit hectic. So if you don't use credible sources, you'll get basically 0 or 2. So please eliminate any non-credible sources from your life when it comes to this hand-in. Okay, only use published journal articles, and on the rare occasion a textbook when it comes to things like this or methodology, but not in the literature review, generally. Okay, it's fine. Textbook is fine for the literature review at this level. We've said it's fine. It's fine. But yeah, textbook and journal articles, nothing else, particularly for this. Okay. Okay, I went down a bit of a rabbit hole there. So just summing up, you need to identify what the concept is, and then provide a conceptual definition for it. Okay, so that's firstly explaining what it is, and that's what's referenced, and then you frame it in how it's used in your research. Yes, Karen, absolutely. Thank you. That's a good way of saying it. So in other words, it's the precise meaning in relation to your research and not the generalized term. Absolutely. You're trying to avoid misunderstanding, basically. And so this, I'm sure you can imagine, is really a vital section when the whole thing comes together. Okay, should we still include the bit saying this concept is relevant or important because ABC after? Okay. See, the thing is, word count is very limited now. So you're basically combining that situation into the definition. So it can be 2 sentences for each, or 3 at an absolute push if you have the words for each concept. But yeah, you need to be doing that dual definition situation for this. So a trick for this is, if they're theoretical concepts that you're defining, use the authoritative source that you used in your theory section here for this. Okay, because then you'll know it's reliable. Okay, are there any questions when it comes to conceptualization for this project? Yeah, so it is kind of like a glossary, but the specific purpose of the definition is that it's conceptual as well. Yes. Okay, excellent. Looks like we are all together. Are we all on the same page? Does anyone have any questions? There are 25 of you here, and I'm hearing from like 4 or 5, so Cool, awesome. So I suppose then there's obviously still some time. Oh, credible sources, as a reminder again. None of this, only this. Okay. Um, but yeah, I suppose any like general questions, if anyone has any, just because yeah, there is some time left. Anything about any of these like research concepts that's confusing, I can clear up. Alrighty. I will hang on for a couple of minutes in case there are any last minute questions. But otherwise, yeah, thank you guys for coming and engaging, and have a lovely week and night and everything further. Yeah, next time I'm going to do the session will be around methodology, so introducing all of those concepts that will then be in for project 3. Okay. Okay, not in relation to this, but where's the link to submit the projects? Oh, yes. So it should be there now. So if you have access to my module now, my group, because that's where they are. So if you still aren't in the right group on VC Learn, then that's the issue. Yeah, so no, remember I can't accept emailed assessments. So I will get it from that whole process of submitting a ticket, and it will come from someone in the results department. Yeah, you should be able to submit project 2 if you are happy with that. If you want to submit it early, absolutely. Cool. Thanks, everyone.